Moderator, Vickaash Agarwal. He's the managing director of Bluewheel Capital. So please come to the stage and remember the rule. Big round of applause. Welcome. Welcome. And if you can introduce your co-panelists, that'd be great.
Yeah. So good afternoon, guys. The topic is building play-to-earn economy in the metaverse. So the play-to-earn is something which is catching up a lot of FUD and a lot of attention. So let's start this interesting conversation, and let me start introducing the panel. So I would like to invite Jamie. So Jamie is the CEO of Vulcan Forge. He started NFT engine, and later he created engine to allow DApps and games to be onboarding with a volume of $15 million and market cap of 100 million. So this is Jamie. I would invite Thibault Verbiest. He's a co-founder of PayFoot. Do we have Thibault here? So Thibault is the co-founder of PayFoot. He has been attorney in Paris and Brussels, partner in Meta Laws, and he has written the first book on blockchain in French. I think he'll be joining us soon. Let's go ahead. I would invite Ankur Garg. Ankur has been a passionate financial and capital marketing enthusiast with a professional trading experience for last 17 years, and he is the director at TDMM. Nice to meet you again. So I would, the next panelist is, I had some problem in pronunciation the name. I've been practicing for quite a time with him. So it's Mattia Mrvosevic. So he is a partner at Eterna Capital. Prior joining Eterna Capital, he was at BlackRock, and he was also consulting Cape Germany and Ernst & Young. So, so I think let's wait for Glabel for 2 minutes, or then we start. What do you suggest? Yeah. So okay. So we'll start over with the discussion. So guys, the play-to-earn model, which is catching up too much of FUD. Let's start with the first discussion. I think we can start one by one, introducing yourself, and you can start the discussion again. So what are the most important aspects of play-to-earn model, and what are the key aspects that gives a particular P2E project an edge over the competitors?
So what are the most important aspects for
Okay, yeah, it's a good question. It's a complex one, and I'm kind of glad that these guys here come from a more sort of finance background, and I'm more from the sort of gaming industry background. So the play-to-earn model is, obviously we saw at Axie Infinity, as I said this morning, it's in a very sort of nascent stage. We saw with the SLP and the inflation of just sort of pumping money out to the users is quite unsustainable. So I think the play-to-earn model, I think how it has to progress, and whether or not I'm right or we're right or the future is right, we don't know. I think it has to be a much more circular sort of in and out sort of process, where you're not just paying out users to play the game, which is kind of bribery at the end of the day, which devalues the quality of the game, but you're finding incentives for them to put what they're earning back into the game, and some sort of cheeky tactics like not allowing them to cash out until they've made enough XP, basic sort of, as I said before, what's the word, intermittent reinforcement techniques to keep them addicted. But I think the play to earn model has to be far more circular to be sustainable to succeed.
Okay, so can we have Ankur?
Yeah, I think video gaming is not something very new to the world. Yes, of course, with the addition of Metaverse, things have changed. But if I tell you a number, like in 2015 itself, there were 2.5 billion gamers on this world. So which is about 32% of the total population. So again, it's not something very new to the world, but obviously as a play to earn model, has to be an element where people can earn from the game. Earlier, it used to be like people who are making games would earn from the games, but now it has changed to the another side where even the players who are there in the game, they are earning from the games. So it's becoming more into the system. It's getting more into the system.
Yeah, I think from investors' perspective, most importantly, obviously beyond the fundamental like team, the company, etc. The play-to-earn, they introduce tokenomics mechanics. So token and the tokenomics element is probably the most important element. And we've seen these happening with like famous games like Axie, etc. that started being very rewarding at the beginning. And then for several reasons that we can see maybe later, basically now it's a bit difficult to just even enter into the game, while in theory at the beginning it was a question of being like free to play. Now it's like you have to pay to play and then to earn later, pretty much.
Okay, so I'll repeat the question for Thibault.
Sorry for being late. So what's the question?
So
Sorry.
I'll repeat the question for Thibault. What are the most important aspects of play-to-earn model, and what are the key aspects that give a particular edge to P2A project over competitors?
Yeah, we at PayFoot, we have spent a lot of time reflecting on the play-to-earn model of our system. And because we are creating a metaverse where fans can build their own stadium, their own clubs, where there is an association which is created in Switzerland called the Virtual Football Association, which is like the FIFA of the virtual football of the metaverse, and where you will be participating in leagues and championships. You can become the world champion of the World Cup, etc. And so it's basically a play-to-earn system. And so you need to come up with a model which makes sense, where at the same time you have big prizes sufficiently, motivating for the fans to be willing to participate in the game and to spend time and even money. Because if you want to have your stadium or your team, you have to build it. And building it means that you have to buy land first, and you have to assemble a team, and you have to pay football players. You might be yourself the owner. You might be an investor. You might be a coach. So it's an entire economy. And so we have spent a lot of time, designing. That's really an entire economy. Huh? It looks like the real economy, but that's a new economy at the same time based on NFTs. And so, but one point which appeared to be very important, and which is a major shift compared to the real life. This is the governance aspect of the ecosystem. And so it appeared to us obvious that we needed to come up with a governance token, and not just with prices, or play-to-earn models that you can see in many games today, but that the governance aspect was very, very important, not that easy to address, because you're talking potentially of a very big community. So how do you involve the fans? Also because you need to put yourself in the shoes of a fan, and does he want to participate in a metaverse which is exactly the replica of the real football economy? Not necessarily, because some sports federations don't necessarily have a good reputation with the fans, too centralized, sometimes corruption, etc. I don't want to name anyone, of course, or drop names. And so governance tokens are super important. So we decided to mint 7 billion governance tokens, as many tokens as the world population, as the numbers of human beings on Earth. So it's a very simple invitation. So every human being on Earth, you are entitled to 1 free governance tokens once you create your avatar in the metaverse. Now you can buy governance tokens, and you know that governance tokens in the DeFi play an important role. But if we are honest, we know also that there is actually a concentration of tokens in a few hands. And so decentralization is not necessarily a fact or reality. So we will limit the possibility of holding tokens for 1 person to 0.2% of the total supply, which might be, by the way, too much. It's still subject to internal discussions. Maybe it's too much. But we don't want, of course, anyone to take over. And the governance tokens will give right to key decisions in the metaverse, including, and not just petty the decisions like you have with fan tokens. Fan tokens, for instance, just voting on the color of the T-shirt of the players. This is not governance. And it's gonna be, for instance, voting on the members of the VIRFA. So imagine you're a football fan and you can decide who will be on the board of FIFA. You would like it. That's possible in the metaverse. In the real world, it's difficult. But you're gonna be able also to come up with a referendum to change the rules of the game of the metaverse. So this is my point is, and that's my point, is that play to earn is not just a question of money. It's also opening the door of a new form of democracy. Opening the door of a new form of democracy. It's a new form of economy where anyone, even unemployed in the real life, can find a way to make a living and find a new job and a new status, a new social status. But it's also a way to actually reinvent democracy.
So I think interesting point, and I agree to it, because blockchain was built to be basically community driven, and gaming ultimately need to be unbiased and more of community driven. So governance token is a good option to it. So now we move on to the next question. Is there enough market appetite to justify P2E as a viable model? So
there's always going to be a market for games. I mean, the gaming industry is absolutely enormous, as we just heard. I still don't think that blockchain gaming, and I'm also talking as a CEO of a blockchain game company, I don't think we're a threat to the gaming market yet. And I think pay-to-play games are still very much going to be the center of gaming for a while, until sort of the models have been separated and NFTs have become a big part of day-to-day lives. I always say that when a child at school starts saying, well, have you got an NFT in your game, then you know the trend has kind of made it. But yeah, so I think for gaming, there's certainly a market. For blockchain gaming, there is a market, but it's an entirely new demographic. It's people that straddle both worlds, the crypto world and the gaming world. And I wouldn't even say they're gamers. I wouldn't even say they're traders. There's something about the owner market, the people owning something within this game. And we don't know how big the market is. Today, and this is not like well, maybe it is really, but Vulcanverse, our virtual world, literally became the #1 most used virtual world compared to Sandbox and Decentraland. And we're only talking a couple of thousand users, unique a day, which is tiny. So that shows you how small the market really is. So a long way to go, but yeah, exciting.
As I told before, about 30% of the world population is already into the gaming. So there is, everybody can understand, obviously, the kind of penetration gaming has. And then on top of that, when you add paid, like it's the concept which is play to earn, where you are earning as well as playing. So I don't see anything stopping it. So I see phenomenal growth. I can tell you one thing, I don't know much about gaming because I don't come from the gaming industry, or I'm not myself a gamer, but I come from a financial industry. But one thing I can tell you, I have a son of 2.5 years and he doesn't know how to converse, but all he knows is how to play games on a mobile. So that ways, I'm very much confident about the concept. It would stay, it is going to be there. It will always grow.
Yeah, no, I mean, 100% reiterating what they were saying, the global gaming market is around 300 billion. There are several McKinsey, Gartner reports that basically back the entire growth of this market. And in general, just let's think that Fortnite is a very famous game from Epic Games. They had 2 billion revenue just from their game, just from selling in-game assets. So this is not a blockchain game, it's like a traditional game that a lot of teenagers play. And this is a free-to-play game where people can buy assets in-game, like skins, characters for the game. So this is literally just to tell you how the traditional world, without even touching blockchain, already is very big into in-game assets. Now with the PlaytoEarn mechanics and by introducing NFTs and all these mechanics, pretty much we are bringing even more to the ecosystem, pretty much.
Yeah, it was just one point. I have a legal background, so I have a fundamental question concerning the future of play-to-earn systems, which is really a legal problem, and we have to face it. Is that, you know, when you look at esports, there are people making a lot of money with esports. There are in some countries very popular people being champions, etc. Sometimes even popular than, I don't know, football players in some countries in Asia, etc. But there's no legal problem. It's just that unless they are underage, could be a problem sometimes. But they pay taxes because you know, that's a real life. Okay, they play esports, but they belong to a federation, and no problem. And but when you are in a metaverse, that's something else. I think that you will come up in a situation where you will have a new generation of people making a living with it. And so how do you do it? Because you know the governments how they are. You know, you saw they reacted with crypto over the last years. You think that the governments will appreciate to see thousands of young guys making a lot of money potentially, or even just making money, just making money, and in a way which looks like they are becoming professional, and they are anonymous because they're just an avatar. There is no KYC. You know, it's not something that have been discussed so far. But if that grows, and we believe it will, there's going to be a big problem.
No, I would second that what you said. People would be earning from the games, earning their living from the games. Because I give you one instance where in COVID, one of the guys I met, he was about 24 years old, a good engineer, like just passed out from college, had spent 2-3 years in corporate world, and he was laid out at the time of COVID. And I was asking how you are earning your living. He told me that he is playing a game all the night and earning money. And in fact, he's sending it to his family as well. So that's the kind of penetration we have in gaming.
I think it's an interesting point, because average user in Philippines who play Axie Infinity for 2 hours makes approximately 5,000 bahts a month, which is half of his salary. And when we talk about the ecosystem, average spending per gamer in the world is $15. So if we have traditional gamers coming over to the platform, the kind of economical gaming viability it comes, it's unimaginable. So to the Thibault point. Now let's move up to the next point. It is very important. Jamie has been into NFT, so he can answer as well. We'll take on the panels again after him. You can start going. How to solve the NFT liquidity problem? At the point NFT being limited in the games, the prices increases by inflation and demand for a gamer to buy or rent and to use it. So like we talk about Axie Infinity, user to start playing the game has to spend around $111 or something to invest and then start playing. So how do you suggest to solve this NFT liquidation issue?
Yeah, I think at the minute you add scarcity to any asset, and it's on the free market, then you're not going to be able to control the price of it, especially in a decentralized world as blockchain gaming. So the way is to kind of sort of work a way around it where, and this comes to the gamification part of how you design the game, so that it's not outpriced for everyone. And if it is, just, you know, accept that it is. It's a pay-to-play win game. The person who owns the best NFT is going to earn the best money, in which case you're not going to attract the mass audience. You're going to attract the bigger payers and the bigger payouts. And I don't think that's sustainable. I think one key, one suggestion or solution you could do, and what we're trying to do, is allow everyone a foot on the bottom rung of the ladder. And when you have a secondary token, ours is Lava, for example, you know, if you can earn that secondary token for free, and yet you can use that token slowly to get enough capital to buy one of the NFTs, which gives you more incentive to rise up the ladder, I think it becomes a much fairer playing field. But it's very, very hard to stop those coming in and buying the best assets, buying the best NFT skins, and winning the game. Again, you can have off-chain measurements like, you know, how much experience do you have? So you can only upgrade, you can only spend that much money if you've played the game enough, but then are you stopping more capital coming? It's just such an enormous field. I just think a lot of blockchain gaming companies, ourselves included, haven't really grasp that what we're doing is you're just throwing a completely unregulated, unthought out, unconceptualized, non-directional economy straight into a game and just hoping they sort themselves out. And it's going to be a minefield. We're going to go through a lot of ups and downs until we find a model that is great for the gamer and also sustainable for the company and profitable for the company. So yeah, to your question, I think just a scalable ladder is the TD the summary there.
To be honest, I don't know the answer for this question, and I could relate it to the traditional financial world where things, like say, there are a lot of things which we can't afford, right? It's not something like everything and everybody can afford everything. So similar to that, maybe there is a initial barrier in entering to those games, but then that's how the life is. And normally in most of those traditional financial things, I can say most of the things get balanced out on its own. So we need not to even take care of this problem, and it would solve on its own.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The main fact, I think, is related to several aspects. Probably the most important is the blockchain itself that you decide, the gaming company decides to use, because obviously, if the company uses Ethereum, we know the known issues of gas, and that could cause already a very big barrier to entry, right? For some countries, especially because if you get an in-game asset like an NFT, and you need to spend $200 just in gas fees to get it, and there is a bit of an issue. And to solve that, there are known like scalable solutions or layer 2 like Polygon and others, or pretty much like the game can be built in other blockchains, either with a cross-chain communication with different blockchains such as Agora, Avalanche, Solana, and there are several others, where by definition at layer 1 you already solved the transaction fee issues. So pretty much the game can be built from the ground with a different entry aspect. So this is a technical point on the blockchain choice. And the other point on the liquidity goes back again to the tokenomics, because they need to be really thought well, because you want to avoid the situation in which people, in order to play, meaning even if the game is free, what I mean by play is like have a good experience. They need to have access to it very easily. They cannot pay a lot of money to buy an NFT and then start playing, pretty much. So this is very two important aspects.
Well, with PayFoot, we have decided to go with our own blockchain, which is an EVM blockchain. And so it's very easily interoperable with other EVM blockchains like Binance, Ethereum, of course, Polygon, etc. And so the gas fees are very low. And it's a proof of authority blockchain, so operated by a limited number of nodes. But the other key problems that concerning NFTs we saw is the storage of the NFTs, which is also a problem that many people do not understand or underestimate, is that look at some disputes recently on OpenSea where some NFTs just disappeared. And so the storage is a key question. So we decided there are different options, but we decided to team up with a Web 3.0 network, which is called Threefold, that I urge you actually to go to their website. It's like there are a few projects out there like Definity, and which offer a very, very serious alternative to centralized cloud and storage. And so the NFTs and the metaverse will run on their grid, which is a decentralized, completely decentralized grid. It's much more sustainable. So we're talking about sustainability and blockchain, and there are solutions like this. And because it's not just the question of the mining, it's more the question of the storage, because, NFTs and metaverse, it requires a lot of storage, a lot of data centers, and a lot of cloud. Do you want to be stored on Amazon? Is it what you want to do when you pretend to be decentralized? Is it what you want to do? And those networks exist, and I urge you to use them.
Okay. So how do we make these NFTs affordable? That was because the inflation, the prices goes high. So how do you think we can make these NFTs affordable?
Sorry, could you repeat?
So the question was like, how do we make these NFTs affordable? Because of inflation, the prices and rent goes high.
Yeah, I think is the point I mentioned on the tokenomics. So you need to, study very well and take a lot of time to plan it, basically. At the beginning, for example, Axie Infinity, you could buy an Axie for $5–10. Now it's pretty much much more expensive. In fact, the majority of people now that pay Axie pretty much are scholars, meaning that people that play with the Axies of other people. So they lend it to them and they get part of the revenue that is generated by these characters in the game. So in my opinion, that's the most important element, personally.
So let's move to next question. The next question is, what are the major challenges and opportunities for the P2E and blockchain gaming sectors for next 12 to 24 months?
Personally, I think that's an easy one in terms of the challenges. I think there are two things which we can't deny are just incompatible, and we're humans. Okay, so we've got payments, we've got playing to earn, we've got money, we've got gaming. Putting those two things together, I just think are highly incongruent and highly incompatible. And it's very rare you're going to find someone who is going to play a game and think, oh, that's cool, I earned a bit of money and I enjoyed the game the most. You're going to get the gamers, you're going to get people who go in and they're going to grind the heck out of it. They're just going to go and trying to get as much dollars out of it they can. And if that's the case, then they don't care if the game's AAA. They just want to make the money. And the gamers don't care about the money. And these are two opposing strategies, which has always frustrated us as a company because we didn't know how to address it at the beginning. But the opportunity is within this problem in that it is creating a new community, a new group of a new demographic, a new kind of people that care about the ownership. I don't know what the solution is to kind of make people, play to earn and enjoy the money, but also enjoy the gaming. I think it's a utopia and it's not coming. But I think the idea of ownership and trading and an economy within a virtual world, that's a very real thing. And that's very exciting. And users are gravitating to that very quickly. Play to earn itself and a metaverse, I think, are two very separate concepts. And one is a lot more sustainable and opportunistic than the other.
I think the biggest challenge is the sustainability for any game, for that matter, be it the traditional video games or the NFT games or the metaverse games. I think by nature, humans get bored of anything which is taken as a hobby or like that. Otherwise, unless it gets to a level where it becomes means of living, and a lot of people doing this for earning their means of living, it will remain a challenge where the game owners have to come up with new things, new innovations, new technology maybe. So that challenge would always remain and it would stay like that.
No, and to reiterate also on the gaming aspect, the main challenge, let's say, to take a step back is I think, like Jamie was saying, to create a nice game, because the main problem is that a lot of people with a play to earn, they don't think about play to earn, they just think about the earn. And that is one of the big issue of some games at the moment, because the logic should be that when people earn, let's say, the token that the game offer, thanks to them achieving something in the game, people should then, if they really like the game, basically they then respend that token and the money in the game. So they upgrade their character, they buy other item stuffs, NFTs related to the game. If you think about just the earn mentality, then this doesn't happen. and people just sell pretty much. So they just play to, you know, just getting into this income. And this, on one side, obviously, you know, you open up opportunities to a lot of people. On the other side, again, on the tokenomics, you need to be very careful because you need to take into consideration that part of the population that plays the game acts just to sell the items pretty much. So I think it's one of the most difficult challenges to you know to overcome along others. Yeah.
Yeah, we already mentioned legal and sustainability issues, but you know, if you look at the market now, something that actually surprises me is that some of the key projects we all know, they start with a quality of a resolution, you know, of the metaverse, which is not super sexy, and to actually attract first as many brands as possible. And so I'm not sure that you will attract eventually, you know, the number of users that you want to attract if you are in a metaverse which is not super sexy first, and second, which is overwhelmed by brands, with supermarket brands, shoe brands, etc. And maybe we should do the other way around, you know, come up with something super sexy. People want to dream, right? People want to dream. People don't want to have a metaverse which is less beautiful than the real world. They want something which is more beautiful, and not necessarily as beautiful, with full of the same brands they have around themselves all the time, you know. So maybe we should think of it also, and that's why again we're trying to do with PayFoot.
Oh, thank you, thank you. It was a great answer. So I think we are done with the questions now from the audiences. Any questions for the panelists? Okay, just the one question. Yeah.
So I have a question. I know the game coming released in March this year, and they might have a solution to how to get people to play, which cannot afford to first pay to play to get into PlaytoEarn. The game has each item on the battlefield. The game is called Born to Die. Each item on the battlefield is an NFT. So someone who doesn't have the money to enter, he can enter as a player and by his skill collecting the items which are helping within the game storyline, they can gain this NFT and they can put it for sale for other player who's already a boosted player. He has the money and he can boost himself and buy this item. For example, on the battlefield, you have a fire. If there is a night, there is some weapon someone found by his skill. He didn't pay for it, so he earned an NFT. Then he can place it for sale. He doesn't have to use it. So the boosted user, the big user, who we're speaking about, that he's taking majority of the market, can buy it. So someone who gained it by skill can earn this money. And then the cycle goes. They both enter equally. They can participate in the GameFi economy equally. I think this might be the solution to that, the beginning of the solution to that. For that, the game is called Born to Die.
Just to quickly answer to you, I totally agree. I think that is the only way, not one of the only ways, one of the key ways you're going to bring in people that can't pay to play to start. But the key with what you're saying there, and we do have it in Vulcanverse, where you forage something, you've got some skill, you forage an NFT from the ground. Now that user has a choice. Do they sell that? And do they cash out the money and say, oh, great, I just played a game for free and made $200? Or is the incentive there for them to reinvest that $200 back into the game? And that's where the gaming comes in. If the games can nail that, you know, desire to pull them back in, well, if I put that $200 back in the game and I upgrade my character, I can potentially earn more. Then you've got what you said of this idea of progression. But again, you're playing with fire. You're giving out free money to a lot of potential people. What's the conversion rate of those that will continue to reinvest and not? But yeah, I totally agree with that strategy.
Just to add one last point on this is that there is also a technical element because at the moment, for example, Ethereum ERC-71, which is the standard for the NFTs, pretty much, they are only allowed to create one specific NFT. So when your NFT, let's say, is a character, it's upgraded to a more powerful character, then you are issued a new NFT, not the same. And when you have a sword or whatever in-game item, that is an NFT as well. So you have many NFTs. And now there are different solutions that are studying how to create a new standard whereby you have one NFT which is upgradable as well. And I think it's quite interesting to address also part of your question in the sense that then the person cannot buy just the upgraded, so the one of the items, but the whole package pretty much. So it's more fair towards the person that initially had it. Yeah.
So wonderful. Thank you guys for the wonderful inputs, and it's a great session. So thank you, Jamie, Thibault, Ankur, Mattia. So I think we'll end the session with here. Can we have a round of applause for our speakers? So thank you guys. Over to you.